Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast, where we bring a unique insight and analysis behind your favorite sports at the collegiate and professional levels. I'm your host, Chase Yantz. Down here, we got Brady. What's going on?
Not too much. Just ready to talk about some fantasy football and get some insight on this year as a whole for fantasy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can't wait to do that. We also got Matt down there, too. Matt, what's up?
What's going on? I'm excited to have the old fantasy football expert, Mr. Jayden Davis, on here tonight. See what he's thinking about this fantasy football season, right? React to his lists and have some fun doing it.
Heck yeah. And we, we're not going to take any much time into this. Jayden, what's good?
Hey, what's happening, guys? I appreciate you having me on here. It's a pleasure. Hopefully got some exciting ranks here that may surprise some people. I'm ready to hear some feedback from all three of you guys, so let's get it going.
Yes, sir. We've been talking about this for a minute for sure. Fantasy season is coming up. Some guys are starting their drafts right now or even have started their drafts. And, the draft season is, a season that is definitely unmatched. But without further ado, we're actually going to throw it back to last season, which last season, it seems like every NFL season and fantasy season gets even crazier. But just some thoughts from the 2021 fantasy season. I know you had a story about this that you said. You want to tell us that, Jayden?
Yeah, I had a pretty good draft last year. Obviously number one receiver Cooper Kupp. I was able to snag him in the fourth round last year, and actually both of my leagues. And that really propelled me into the season going into the championship and whatnot. I actually ended up winning one because of him, but I was lucky enough to get Austin Eckler in the first round as well. So it's kind of risky taking a lot of stock into, multiple players in the same team, but it ended up working out. Got one win and got second in the other. So that was just my little exciting story about that.
Yep, for sure. And then, you have guys talking about I see some drafts where it's like, you'll have that one guy that's like, oh, I'm going to draft a quarterback in round one. And that just kind of throws everything off. And, like you want to draft quarterbacks, in the mid to later rounds and all that stuff where you get all the, running backs, receivers out of the way. I think that's like an unspoken fantasy rule right there. But, but yeah, just picking up guys like that. Austin Eckler had a big year. Cooper Kupp obviously was the best at any position last year. But yeah, I mean, some good fantasy football last year. But with all of these moves, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to see what happens in 2022. And that was a short little spiel right there. But we're gonna get right into these lists. He's got some great lists coming out. So let's hop into the quarterbacks. So take it away, Jayden. What do you got with these top 10 quarterbacks and some guys to look out for?
Yep. So I think it's goes unsaid. Everybody has him on the top of their ADP at quarterback position. Josh Allen. He can do it on the ground. He can do it in the air. That's everything you want from your number one quarterback coming off the draft board. So difference maker, like I said, his feet. I think he had over 700 rushing yards last year. The only other person to do that, I believe, was Jalen Hurts. So obviously, when you take Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen, who has a better arm, Josh Allen all day. So it doesn't even come close there. I think the only person that comes close to kind of taking that throne is Justin Herbert. It's one of my favorites as well. Drafted him in that league that I won, was able to stack him with Eckler. So, great offense. They got Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, two great 1-2 receivers right there. I think the only thing that might hurt them a little bit this year is their defense is way better than last year. Adding in Mac and then obviously Bosa off the edge. But moving on to the third one, Lamar Jackson. From a quarterback standpoint, if you can move, you can run, that's going to just add on to the points. Didn't have the best season last year, coming into the 16th ranked last year, but this is his contract year. So, he's coming for all that money. And then dropping down, Patrick Mahomes. What else you got to say about him? He's a dog. One of the best easily in the NFL, but what the big thing happened in the offseason, obviously Tyreek Hill. So he's going to really have to lean on Travis Kelce this year. Juju Smith, he has been a prominent guy in his early years, but injury last year, who kind of knows what's going to happen with there. Scallon hopefully steps up, as well as Coleman. Moving down, your guy, Joe Burrow, finished 7th last year. It's hard to even say anything else because, I mean, he has no kind of cons to him at all. Improved offensive line, one of the best receiving cores in the entire league. I mean, there's not much more you can say about that. I think a little bit of a surprise here, Matthew Stafford, super high-powered offense. Just added Allen Robinson, former top 6, top 7 PPR receiver. Hopefully comeback year coming in this year. A lot of good things hearing out of camp with A-Rob, just running with the team and whatnot. Only con that could be with him, he did have elbow surgery, I believe. So he hasn't really been able to make that connection just yet with A-Rob. But, that's kind of the same thing coming in last year. He was new to the team, made that connection with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. So, hopefully A-Rob can benefit from that. Best quarterback by far of his career. Going into number 7, Kyler Murray. He finished 9 last year. He goes ahead and, Cardinals go out, grab his receiver from college. Anytime you get that previous, players that you played with in the past, just makes it a lot easier, automatic connection. But their division is really solid. Great defenses there. So he did have a couple injuries throughout the middle of the season last year. So, that second half of the season wasn't the best, which, that's why it drops me down. A little more of a prove it to me at the 7th spot there. And going into number 8, same thing with Jalen Hurts. Like I was saying, comparing him to Josh Allen, he can do it on the ground. His passing is a little suspect to me. But he did, I believe, lead the league not the league, but he did lead the quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns with 10. And then obviously adding A.J. Brown, top tier talent right there. But he does have to take that next step, I think, to really move up in the rankings. He did finish 3rd last year, but, easily could move up in the top 5. 9, we got Russell Wilson. New team, but pretty similar, maybe even better receiving core. You look at Cortland Sutton, 6'4", deep threat. You got DK back in Seattle. I think that could be an automatic, connection there. Obviously adding Jerry Jeudy, he's an absolute stud. But, like I said, new team, question marks there, kind of a prove it there as well. And then lastly, Tom Brady, the GOAT. Losing Gronk, obviously a big hit to him, but, still one of the best lines in the league, has a great receiving core. Obviously, as everybody knows, kind of little breaking news, the Julio Jones signing. So, Tom Brady likes that, automatic catcher that he can always rely on. I think with Julio Jones and this point in the career, he can do that as like a middle over the field threat. And then kind of take the long jump balls to Mike Evans and, Chris Godwin once he's healthy. So that's the 10 right there. What do you guys think?
I thought it was really good for the most part. I thought pretty much everything's spot on. Josh Allen would definitely be my number 1. And I think the only thing I would change is I might have Jalen Hurts a spot or 2 higher. Just due to the fact that A.J. Brown, I think, could be such a huge addition with especially the fact that he's so good after the catch. Yeah. I think he can turn some of those because Jalen Hurts hasn't really had an after the catch type of guy that is that explosive because Davonte Smith is more of a route running speed type of guy. Sure. And I just think A.J. Brown will up his touchdowns in the passing game a good amount. And I think he'll stay consistent in the run game. But overall, pretty much everything I thought was spot on. The points you made were really good, especially, Tom Brady, Julio Jones edition. Got to shout that out. Super, super big time for the Buccaneers. They now have 4 very, very solid receiving threats. Their receiving core is now top. It already was really good, but it just is even more than that conversation for one of the best receiving cores in the league. And overall, I just good list. And I'll pass my thoughts over to Matt or Chase, whichever one of you guys wants to react.
Overall, I think it was pretty good. Josh Allen for sure, number 1. Derek Carr, I think, is kind of a guy that, I think could creep into there. You get what I'm saying? I think his reconnection with Davonte Adams is going to be huge for him this year. So that's a guy I would keep an eye on. Just if you end up using a fifth, sixth round draft pick, wanting to get more skill position players. It's a guy you could pick up later on and still get a lot of production out of it. I mean, a sleeper guy, this might be a little crazy, but I think Matt Ryan's going to have a really good year with the Colts. So just a sleeper pick in general. They have a really good run game. Being able to play action off of that, it's just going to open everything up with running the ball with Jonathan Taylor a lot. Matt Ryan's just been throughout his career, mostly he's been really, solid guy, just a solid guy. He had his one MVP season. But other than that, he's been just kind of the sure hand at quarterback. So that's another guy that I would keep an eye on as a sleeper. But like I said, I think your list is pretty good. Josh Allen, I think, just has to be number one. So for the most part, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah. And I'd say, Josh Allen with just the explosive play ability. I mean, look at the rushing yards right there on the screen, 763 yards and 6 touchdowns. And, he's still up in the top part of the league and the top 5 and 10 in passing and 36 touchdowns. He can do it all. And then Justin Herbert, 5,000 yards last year. Lamar Jackson, in a normal year, Lamar Jackson will be filling up the stat sheet and all of those things. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. And Joe Burrow, like you said, doesn't really have like noticeable weaknesses, and they got better in parts of protecting him and still have a very good receiving core. Stafford and Murray, Stafford coming out of the Super Bowl and having A-Rob, I mean that's huge. And then Kyler Murray, I think it'll be a little tougher to start, with D-Hop being out the first 6 games, but if they're able to weather that storm and all, I think his numbers are going to go significantly better throughout the season if they can still kind of weather that. And it is really nice having Hollywood Brown over there as a college connection right there. So maybe they can just kind of walk in and be on the same page and not miss as much of a beat without D-Hop. I mean, obviously we can weigh the receivers of D-Hop and Hollywood Brown, but I mean, that's still pretty big stuff to look at. Jalen Hurts. I mean, we talk about, like I said, the addition of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, his development. I mean, and the rushing ability of Jalen Hurts. I mean, Philadelphia might be a place where, like a lot of people want to pick these guys in fantasy this year. Yeah. It really well could be that way. Russell Wilson, I've kind of gone back and forth about the the offense itself, but he's got a very good cast. He's got a good running back in Javonte Williams. But, I mean, they brought Russell Wilson in for a reason. That's not just to hand the ball off. He's going to throw the football. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the bottom line there. So I can definitely agree with that. And then Tom Brady, I mean, some people have him like that, that they think he'll fall off this year. And that's definitely not what you're saying or anyone's saying right now because, as said, he's still the GOAT. Added Julio Jones. We don't know when Chris Godwin's going to come back off the torn ACL. It could be earlier in the season. That is the guess. I do want to say, though, Tom Brady's stats last year, I don't think anyone expected this. 5,316 yards at age 44, 43 touchdowns and 12 picks. That is insane. I mean, no one expected the jump out of him, especially coming off a Super Bowl season. I mean, thinking, he'd have have his very good season and all that, knowing that time is trickling down. But I mean, a hell of a year for Tom Brady. I remember I drafted him, I think round 6 last year because quarterbacks were going really quick. And I was like, might as well take I think people are like, okay, Tom Brady, you don't want to really draft him that high in fantasy football. I think that's what it's been in the years past because you don't really know whose receivers are other than Gronk. But I mean, I love the list. I really agree with this. And I think a big one that other people are going to look at, and they also understand the situation. You talk about Derek Carr having Davonte Adams and having Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, but the National Football League MVP Aaron Rodgers is not on this list. Yeah. I know that the whole decimation of the receiving corps now, but any more insight on that?
Well, I do have him on the avoid just because of that reason. I think AJ, Dillon, and then also Aaron Jones, they're going to be absolute PPR monsters. But, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, obviously big name there, but I think he's maybe 33, almost going on 34. So possibly past his prime, but could be big season just because he's the only one there with, that previous I might even date back to the Super Bowl connection with Aaron Rodgers. So that could be a huge one right there. My previous had Tom Brady on there before the Julio. So I'd go ahead and check him right off. But back to Matt, I had Derek Carr on the sleeper, another one, depending on the suspension. And when you get him, I've been getting him very last round, Deshaun Watson. So that could be a possible sleeper too.
Yep. I really like what what Cleveland has. They have a very good roster overall because they can throw passes out of the backfield to Kareem Hunt, even guys like Nick Chubb. Amari Cooper is not a bad receiver. I don't know how the Browns are they're gonna run a lot of play action and stuff like that, just because of how they are with running the football. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, being able to throw him the deep ball is going to be really big. But we'll get more into that in a little bit. But you guys, any more thoughts on quarterbacks, Matt or Brady?
What do you think about Jameis? What does anybody think about Jameis Winston?
That's a good one.
Great receiving core.
The receiver core, with Thomas coming back, supposed to be healthy, and then Chris Olave, they just drafted Chris.
Jarvis Landry.
Throw a lot of picks and a lot of touchdowns. I think he's going to throw
So
I can see
if you're in a league where you don't get negatives for picks, you know what I'm saying? Some people are in those kind of leagues. So it just depends on your scoring, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I think he'll be pretty good.
I think that's another name to keep an eye on. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think he'll throw a good amount of touchdowns for sure. Let's assume that Michael Thomas is healthy for at least most of the year. I think he throws for at least upper 4,000s, maybe even. I think he goes high 4,000s yards. And I think he throws for 30 touchdowns. But I also think he throws like 20 picks plus.
Yeah.
30.
Exactly. He might. I could see that again. He
does like throwing picks, there's no doubt.
Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah, my bad. But
you're good, yeah.
Throwing that risk is good for receivers because it gives them the opportunity to make big plays, which honestly that might be they always say that Michael Thomas likes running slants, but in reality Drew Brees was getting old, so he really can't throw downfield at the level of Jameis. So I think he might prove that narrative wrong this year. Then obviously Chris Olave's best trick is probably as a deep threat. He's good at everything, but deep threat was one of his biggest things in college. So I think Jameis Winston will throw probably 5+ touchdowns and 5+ picks going deep to Chris Olave this year. We're gonna see. We're gonna see a lot of fireworks from the Saints. So I like Jameis.
You talk about going over the top. You got a great receiver under too with Jarvis Landry. They got him in the offseason, so that's another one to watch out to.
Yep,
definitely in the slot for sure.
And definitely we got to also monitor. I think we'll talk about this guy in a little bit, but they're running back in the back, number 41, Dink and Dunk, and that's going to be pretty big for them. And one more guy I want to mention before we move on to the running backs. We talked about the Vikings a little bit on the past episodes. Kirk Cousins, they're having a bit of they're revamping the offense. They're going to be more pass first under Kevin O'Connell. You got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne. So I can see them really throwing the football a whole lot. It just depends on how Kirk Cousins, if he's going to be able to. I'm not going to say make that next step because he's been in the league for like 11 years. So I think right now, we know. I don't know if he's going to make that next step, but just fantasy perspective. The dude had a great year last year. Let's be real. I think he had like close to 30 touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions and over 4,000 yards. So if you're looking for a stat king in fantasy football, Kirk Cousins might be an option to go if you're talking very late round picks and all. So just keep an eye on that one too. But good insights on the quarterbacks right there, but we'll move it right back to the running backs right here. So Jayden, you got this list too.
Yep. So I think starting off the same thing with the quarterbacks, I think there's a defined number one. Just listening to, other YouTubers and whatnot talking about it. I know there could be a little bit of a controversy for it, but in my mind, there's no doubt if I got the number one pick, taking Jonathan Taylor. Great offensive line, obviously number one last year. I know the coach is talking about they're going to have Nyheim Hines a little more into the offense, but I don't think that cuts into Jonathan Taylor and what he does one bit. So number one, Jonathan Taylor. Number two, Austin Eckler. Like I said, I had him both leagues last year. came in, great season, obviously, can do it out of the backfield, receiving and running the ball. I think I became a little bit of a Chargers fan over the year, just watching the Chargers on the NFL Network with him and Herbert. So got him at number 2. Number 3, Derrick Henry. I know they're talking about having him for comeback player of the year. I think that injury was honestly a freak thing. I know he takes his lumps. He's getting older, but that man is 6'3", 250 almost. I mean, he's made to take a beating. So finishing at 20 last year, there's no way I'm taking him at number 3. And then at number 4, Najee Harris. Mike Tomlin already said he's going to be the bell cow, and I don't see any other way of them winning ball games with Mr. Trubisky or young Kenny Pickett back there. So he even finished at 3 last year, so I think it's safe to have him at 4. No problem with him with his upcoming season and the load he's going to be having on his back. With number 5, Joe Mixon, same thing with Burrow, revamped offensive line. Finished number 4 last year. Kind of a similar receiving back, I think, to Eckler, where he can do it both ways, but his ground game is how he runs. He punishes people at the end. So I got him at number 5. And this is where I think it can get a little controversial, as I was saying at the start, but I got Christian McCaffrey at 6. His injury past, I've had him before, I think 2-3 years ago. I can't say rubbed me the wrong way because it's just fantasy football. It's not that deep, but it was something where I was like, I can't take this because taking him number 1 overall, you lose your number 1 guy, you're in a tough spot for the rest of the season. So, but pros, Baker coming in, maybe throw it a little more, take a little bit of the offensive load off him as well. Easily could move up, but obviously with his injured season, finished at 38. So got him at 6. Aaron Jones. Kind of the same thing. He's going to be a PPR monster. I got him in one of my leagues. Kind of swayed back and forth. I usually play Dynasty, so I was trying to get a little more future picks, players for that. But for a 1-year redraft season, I think he's going to be great. Easily top 10, no problem. Obviously, with Davonte Adams out, there's going to be a high percentage of the offense having to go somewhere, and I think Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon are going to take that up. Number 8, Dalvin Cook. Injury-wise, I think it's plagued him a little bit. Obviously, getting a little bit older later in his career. Still a great player. I think last year was an injury-prone season. I didn't have him in any of my leagues, so I didn't pay much attention. I almost feel like Minnesota, that's the least probably team I watch in the NFL. So not a bunch of deep dive on him, but I do have him at 8. Still a great player, no doubt. Number 9, Leonard Fournette. Actually made a trade for him this season, off season. I think he's going to be great this year. Rojo's out. He's with the Chiefs now. The backfield's really with him. They did pick up a rookie, but I think Leonard Fournette can do it all. So I think he's going to have a great season. Honestly, in my own mind, picking him up in a trade, I think he's going to be higher than 9. But I do have him at 9 for, top 10 running back sake. And then lastly, Deandre Swift. Lions could be a problem in a couple years. They got a lot of really good talent. But right now, I just don't think they're there yet, which why, I have Deandre Swift at 10. Great player. I think is very comparable to what Aaron Jones has done so far. So, obviously great player right there. But, just getting back to it, I think where the Lions are right now, still building. So I have him at 10.
Before I give it down the mat, I do want to say about running backs. I mean, this is obviously when it comes to running backs, receivers, this is what fantasy football is. All right. These are the guys that get you all these, they get you all the points. Yep. Running backs, it's very tough picking running backs when it comes to injuries. Because they are always, it's a wear and tear position. Like guys don't last as long as they used to. I mean, it's 10 years if it's 10 years at best. So, from that fantasy perspective, you get guys in a 6 and 7 year time frame that they do all they can, and then you don't hear about them for a few years after that. But injuries is the biggest thing, and that's where you have guys like Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and all of them, where they can be on 1 year and then just some injuries take over and who knows. But I'll throw it down the mat right now. What do you got?
This list is a little bit. I think it's a good list overall. I think you have all the names in there. It's just different order for me. for me, Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. I mean, Dalvin, if he could stay healthy, he hasn't been as injury prone as Christian has. But Christian McCaffrey, just like I couldn't bring myself to waste a first round or use a first round pick on him. I just couldn't do it right now.
Yeah.
Just the way he gets hurt, you're literally going to ruin your season after maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Just the way he gets hurt. So I drop him all just down. He's got to be in the 10 to 15 range or whatever. But I would just get him out of there for me.
Wow.
I would move DeAndre Swift up more. I think he's a rising star, getting more touches. He's a great PPR back as well out of the backfield. And also Nick Chubb. I don't think you even did you mention Nick Chubb in the top 10? Yeah. So Chubb is another guy that I think is also top 6, 7 back around that range. Guys that you didn't mention as well, not guys that I would put in the top 10, but just guys on the fringe. You got Zeke. Josh Jacobs as well. Guys like that are also people that you could draft as well. But at the top of the list was my biggest thing. I think Austin Eckler's had the years. We've talked about it off camera a little bit, actually, Jay, where he's had a big year, then a down year, a big year, and a down year. I think this is a down year, maybe.
It could be.
I think it's time for his down year. So I would drop Austin Eckler down maybe like the 6 or 7 range. I just like Derrick Henry. He's just a freaking tank. I know he got banged up last year. So I'm good with Jonathan Taylor at 1. I think he's the best back in the league. But Derrick Henry, I would put Derrick Henry at 2.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my list there. But I like all the names you said, 100%. It's just I like to mix them around a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yep. So I agree with the names as well for the most part, for sure. I do think that I see what Matt's saying for sure about Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, injuries wise. I'd still say Christian McCaffrey is pretty high on that list, though, due to the fact that he is so good if he's healthy. I mean, I don't know. What's the chance? The chance that he gets hurt again, it would be crazy if he did because of how big of a streak it is, but it could happen. I understand that for sure. But I'd still keep him high. I agree with the top 3 in exact order. 4 and 5 too are pretty good. Either one, right there. And then I just had a question. What do you think about J.K. Dobbins this year?
Well, starting out on the pup list already, I actually had a trade offer from him, so kind of did a little bit of a deep dive into him. Rookie season, obviously a pretty good start to a rookie campaign. Obviously getting hurt in that second year. Third year, that's ACL. It can go either way, with recovery wise. Obviously, he's still very young, but Lamar Jackson is going to take a bunch of those runs. With just the way he plays, it really affects him. You got Gus Edwards in the backfield, I think actually coming from the same exact injury JK has. So I think it's going to be a real committee with actually the quarterback leading the pack of the running back committee. So still love JK. I think he's a great player. Just the situations he is in right now doesn't help him in a fantasy sense.
Right. I wasn't sure if you were going to think that Lamar would be somewhat of an advantage for opening up hole-wise, but taking away that production, you really can't come back from that.
Right.
But I do think I don't think he's top 10, but I think he might be top 15, 20 range.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could be surprising this year based off what I saw his rookie season. And then other than that, for your list overall, I thought it was really good. I thought, obviously, Jonathan Taylor, you really can't not pick him at 1 due to the fact that he just was easily the number 1 running back last year. Yep. So if you didn't pick him and he was number 1 again at 1, then you just stupid. But, overall, other than that, I don't see anything wrong.
Yeah, with McCaffrey too, value, you got to play value as well. I think it was in one of our mock drafts, he fell to 6 or 7. You have to take McCaffrey at that point. If you have the 6 or 7 pick in the first round, you got to take a chance on it at that point.
I agree. Even if Matt doesn't agree, I agree.
Yeah, Matt will be the one that slides it to us.
Yeah,
take him.
There you go. But yeah,
what about Saquon? What does anybody think about Saquon this year?
He sucks.
That was on his avoid list. I will say that.
On my avoid list. I had same kind of thing. I actually had him last year. I think he had an injury maybe the previous season to that, so I was already kind of taking a chance on him. Yeah. And then the second time, getting burned, he's on my avoid list. I can't take McCaffrey or Barkley.
I'm with that. That's good.
Close your season, man.
Yep.
It really. That's what I'm saying. I just couldn't do it. It just pissed me off too much. I just couldn't do it.
I've always thought Saquon was a freak, but he's just never really been much of a production guy. Like he has before, but like he never like will just freak you out with stats. Like he'll make a really nice run where he runs a 70-yard touchdown and he made 3 insane cuts. But then again, that game he'll finish with 100 rushing yards. It's like, okay, that's good, but you had a 70-yard rushing touchdown. And then he's just never been a guy that will just carry a load and run for 140 yards a game of just pure power. Like he's really strong, but he loves to run side to side, and like he scares me a little bit in that sense. Even in college, when he was up for the Heisman, he didn't run for that many yards. Like he was really good, but he's just never been a production monster. But he can catch the ball. He can, and he'll also provide on the ground. But I don't think he is elite at either of them to the point where he'll be a top 10 back.
Not on the greatest team either.
Yeah,
right.
That also sucks. Giants are horrid. Yeah. But Saquon's a big play guy. Like, you know what I mean? He's just he's not a 3-4 yard give it to him back, workhorse back. He's just a big play pop guy. That's what he is. So it's what he's always been. It's what he was at Penn State. He's never been able to run between the tackles very well. So but he just makes so many big plays. When he does make a big play, those add up for points wise. So
he's still extremely talented.
Just a guy to keep your eye on for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a feature back. He'll be a guy that gets he's not going to be that workhorse that gets 30 carries a game like Derrick Henry or Jonathan Taylor. He's a guy that'll get in that 15 to 18 range and use him in other ways. I will say the New York Giants, that's one of the teams where I literally have no idea they're not a good football team. Let's just say that. But I have no idea what to expect from them on offense because obviously Daniel Jones, they just keep trying to throw the ball with Daniel Jones, which at this point, it's not going to fucking work. All right. That honestly pisses me off. And I'm not a Giants fan. I could care less for the Giants, but that honestly pisses me off. They have some good receivers though. You look at it, they got Kadarius Toney, Kenny Galladay, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slade. They got good receivers, but the quarterback, they don't have him. That's not the right guy. Saquon Barkley, he's not good. There's a reason they declined their option.
Great ass. Might as well get Taylor Heineke out there, somebody like that.
That's actually, exactly. They would that whole offense would actually function better with a guy like that. He can throw the ball a little bit, throw the ball better than Daniel Jones, and it actually would open up for Saquon Barkley quite a bit. But with Saquon, the injuries are a big thing, and the last couple of years or whatever. But then we don't know what the Giants are going to be this year under Brian Dable and that new offense. But two sleepers I wanted to mention on here. Actually, I'll go through the list first. I like the entire list. I will say I don't have many complaints. Obviously, we talk about the McCaffrey thing. We don't know where we have no idea what's going to happen with the amount of injuries he's had. I really like the Aaron Jones one. Pass catching ability. Leonard Fournette, I guess, is like a donut away from 260, but still, I think if he gets in the good shape, I think he'll be just fine. Sleepers though, the two sleepers that you have on this list, I really like them. If you want to, come out and say them.
Yep. So absolute league winner, and you have to handcuff him, is A.J. Dillon. I think he's almost similar to Derrick Henry. He's 250, 6'1", 6'2", maybe. Absolute monster. I think if anything happens to Aaron Jones in the slightest bit, A.J. Dillon goes in there, automatic RB1 every single week that Aaron Jones is down. And then also David Montgomery. He's actually slipping, in my personal view, a little bit in the ADP. Absolute versatile back, catching, running. It's going to be in a very bad offense where he's going to be one of the primary guys in there. So, and I think obviously Justin Fields' sophomore year could get a lot better too. All new coaching staff and whatnot. So all that Matt Nagy crap's out. So hopefully that Bears entire team can start moving forward, which will obviously help Montgomery. I did add one more. Actually, I don't know if I said to you, Seattle's backfield. Chris Carson retired today. So, Penny or Walker, whichever one. I think that could be RB2 at least.
That's a good one. I like the Kenneth Walker one, especially coming. We talk about Jonathan Taylor, how he was a workhorse in college. Kenneth Walker wasn't really like a would you say he was a workhorse? He had great numbers last year. All right, really great numbers.
The statistics were probably best back in the country if you look at that. But he wasn't. I wouldn't say he was Jonathan Taylor level. But I get, he was right up there with him. I mean,
exactly. Yeah,
numbers wise,
like that could be a guy where you could plug and play him, and he could be fine. But we also look at Seattle's offense. We don't know what's going to happen this year at that. No idea. But hopefully. Yeah, Drew Lock. Oh God, Drew Lock. I don't want to talk about him, but I don't even particularly care for him. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of guys, a lot of sleepers on there. The Seattle backfield for sure. Unfortunate for Chris Carson. Really good running back, fantasy back in general. Just unfortunate that his career had to cut short. But obviously health and safety first over everything. But I'll kind of throw it to you now. I'll throw it back to you, Jayden. Wide receivers. This is one of the most loaded seasons we've had for wide receivers in the longest time. People are moving around. Let's see what this list looks like.
Yeah, I think the first 5 guys, I think you could get in the first round and be totally happy starting off your draft. But with number 1, Cooper Kupp, absolute insane stats. I've never seen anything like it. Kind of like my fantasy career. I was lucky enough to get him at the 4th round last year. So coming back, Matthew Stafford, that connections is going to get even stronger. Just won the Super Bowl. So, no complaints there. I don't see anything bad. Only thing is stop him is the injury, I guess. Number 2, Justin Jefferson, just like back to what you were saying earlier, Kirk Cousins, he just airs that thing out. Adam Thielen's 31. I think Adam Thielen's more of a possession catcher. So Justin's that big play guy, deep ball, touchdown, jump ball in the end zone. So I think that gets him to 2. Jamar Chase, the only reason I actually get him down to 3 is just because Justin Jefferson is more of the I don't want to say the guy because they're both the guy on the same team, but I guess Jamar Chase has a better, wide receiver group. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. The ball's going to get spread out a little more. So that's the only reason I have Jamar Chase at 3. You can interchange Jefferson or Chase at that point. Davonte Adams came in number 2 last year, finishing the season. Only reason I have him at 4 is just because we haven't seen what Derek Carr and him are going to do. Still, one of the best receivers in the league, no question about it. I just have him at 4 just because we don't have anything to look at for the past of what they've done in the past, and I don't know if it's going to be huge, but Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr could be a big difference. Stefan Diggs at 5. He finished 7 last year. Josh Allen, he airs that thing out. Obviously losing Emmanuel Sanders. He lost one more guy. Forget his name, but yeah, I think that's going to open
Cole
up.
Beasley, I think he lost him.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. So, obviously more percentage of the offense is going to have to go somewhere, and Stefan Diggs is the best player on that offense besides Josh Allen. So that could go into a little bit of a sleeper pick with Gabriel Davis. But and then after that, CeeDee Lamb, same kind of thing. I believe Michael Gallup's gone. Obviously, Amari Cooper's definitely gone. So many passes are going to open up. I think that a lot of them are going to go to CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, Dalton Schultz is still there as well, but I think CeeDee Lamb is the primary receiver of those. Mike Evans, I had him higher just because, Chris Godwin, not sure what's going to happen with that, how quickly his return is going to be. But with the Julio, I don't think it changes it really at all. I still have him at 7. He's definitely the best receiver in that offense, and he has Tom Brady thrown to him with Gronk gone. So that's why I have him at 7. Debo, I think he's still going to be the do-it-all kind of guy, but Trey Lance, same kind of thing. He didn't really get in the rhythm last year, so we're not sure kind of like from a sample size of what he's going to be able to do this year. So that's why I have him at 8. He did finish at 3, though. I definitely want to, make that clear. And then Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Tua. I don't think there's any more needs to be said about that. You have a deep ball guy with a quarterback that can't throw deep. I don't think that's a perfect recipe in an offense. So maybe they can do a little bit of stuff that they used to do with Debo and San Francisco, where they moved him around, motion, whatnot from that standpoint. But we're going to have to find out and see there. He did finish at 6 last year, though. And then lastly, Keenan Allen's my 10. That dude is just absolutely solid. He plays from a 13 to 8 range every single week in and out, sometimes higher. That guy is the most consistent fantasy receiver, I think, there is, not being at the very, very top of the list. So I think he's almost in the top 10 every single week from fantasy point wise. So that is the top 10 right there.
Yep, I like it. Brady, what do you think?
I thought this one was probably the closest one to my exact list that you've had. Like, they've all been somewhat close because everyone's list is pretty similar, obviously, based off of like last year and all that. But this one was like to the point where I'm not sure I'd change anything.
Yeah.
I might move Debo a spot higher, but I mean, that's just nitpicking. You never know with Trey Lance what's going to happen. If he's going to be the same player as last year in the receiving game, because obviously the rushing probably won't change.
Yeah,
they'll still use him that way. But other than that, I think it's really good. What do you think about the Seahawks receiving duo? What do you think will happen with that?
Yeah, I do have DK on the avoid
list.
I have him on the avoid list this year. I did. So I play more of Dynasty, so I did actually go out and get him just from obviously he's at a discount right now just because they don't have Russell Wilson there anymore. It's either Geno or Drew Lock. I'd prefer Geno for this season. But I'm looking in the future here. Hopefully a CJ Stroud comes around, marks his spot down in Seattle, and you got CJ Stroud DK for
CJ if he gets
for a long time. So avoid this year. From a dynasty standpoint, I like his value of where you can get him though.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to see what you thought about that situation, on if they would if you thought they would stay as relevant as they've been, or if they drop off.
Yeah,
like you expect them to without Russell and all that.
Yeah. Definitely expecting them to drop off a little bit, but I feel like Seattle's is always that team that kind of just hangs in there as a solid team. Pete Carroll's been there for so long; he knows how to get his players going. So I think they do take a step back, but next year hopefully they get themselves in a good position to go out and get themselves a quarterback.
Yep, no doubt, and they probably will with this team they have coming back this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. What about you, Matt? What you got?
I think towards the top 4 are perfect. Move Davonte down just a little bit, just because we don't know how the Derek Carr situation is going to work. So I'm good with that. I think top 4 are perfect. I'd move Mike Evans down a little bit. I think Brady's going to try to spread the wealth a little bit around more than he just does. He doesn't always get zoned in on one guy. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
He's great at facilitating around. So I would move. I think Mike Evans is a top 10, 12. I think he's great. But I just wouldn't have him so high at 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think Terry McLaurin needs to be in the top 10. The way that he just plays so good with shitty quarterbacks throwing the fucking ball. Somehow he's just always so good. So I would keep him in the top 10. I like Keenan Allen in the top 10 as well. I mean, dude is just, you said it, he's a model consistency for years. I mean, it feels like he's been in the league 10 damn years, and I don't think he has, but it's damn close. And he's just a solid receiver. So I'm good with that. And then 2 guys, well, 1 guy you didn't mention, I'm sorry, A.J. Brown. I think Hurts coming around, getting better throwing the ball. He's going to be their number 1 target in Philly. They got to throw the ball sometime. They can't run the ball every fucking play. Yeah. So I think AJ, and then Michael Thomas. Mm-hmm. He's healthy.
He's got to come back,
right?
Yeah, he's
healthy. He's got to be in there. If he's healthy,
I don't think he's going to be healthy. I really
don't. You're not holding up train.
I don't think he's going to be healthy, or else I would have definitely said something about him just because of how great he's been.
Right, 100%.
Honestly, I completely agree. If he's healthy,
he's got to be there. He's got to be there.
He's still. By the way, I did check you on the last episode where we talked about his catch record. He still does. Cooper Kupp didn't break it. It was close.
Okay, very close. Okay.
It was very close.
Yeah, Mike still has it, right?
He has the catch record, and he scores a lot of touchdowns too. If he's healthy, you could be looking at a huge sleeper because of how good he's been in the past. But I don't know that he to start the season will be healthy, which opens up the door for Chris Olave being that. Not saying it's going to be to the level or the extent, being that Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson rookie type season where he's one of the best receivers statistically fantasy already. So I can see Chris Olave going off because of Michael Thomas not being healthy.
That's a great point.
Yep. I definitely agree with all that. The top 5 I love. I mean, this is one of the toughest lists to put together. And Jayden, I think you nailed it. I think you nailed this list. At top 5, love it. So like when I'm looking at this, CeeDee Lamb at 6, he's gonna get a lot of targets this year. Gonna have a lot of catches, especially PPR wise. For me, maybe I'd have. I think with Trey Lance, like we don't know what's gonna happen with the Niners, but I think they're gonna rely even more on Debo. So I'd honestly move Debo to 6, and then maybe bump CeeDee down to 7. And Mike Evans down to 8, and then everything else is fine. Keenan Allen, we kind of forget about this. Keenan Allen had this stretch of injuries, I think, from like about 2014 through 2016 or 17. He was injured for about 2 or 3 years in a row, tore an ACL twice, and had some other stuff going on. But ever since he came back healthy in 2017, 18, around that time frame, he has been, if not the most consistent fantasy football wide receiver. And like I said, that's Mr. Reliable right there out of that entire pack. Like I said, DK Metcalf, want to avoid, great receiver, but obviously with the quarterback situation, we don't know. And then Tyreek Hill, it's like an unsolvable algebra problem on how the hell they're going to throw the ball deep with a guy that doesn't know how to throw the ball deep. I'll see him Thursday Night Football in person. So hopefully he doesn't somehow ever listen to this podcast and say, I'm gonna throw deep, which is not ever gonna happen.
I gotta make Chase look like shit. Let's go deep here, guys.
Exactly. And just come in and just shit in my face.
He'll probably be waiting at your car after the game with like
exactly. Yeah. And I'll give him.
Actually, he might be too nice. He'll probably just have words with you, like a word like trying to make up. And like,
exactly. Yeah. And be like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? Sure. Why not? Like,
podcast, and then we'll have two. We'll have two.
Exactly. And then, but man, like, I don't know how that's gonna really work though. I really have no idea how that's gonna work. I mean, they can lose him around in different ways. So I think Tyreek Hill's gonna have touches. I like him at 9, for sure. I'm gonna ask your sleepers in a second, but before I give them to you, I don't know what's gonna happen with the Panthers at quarterback. We already know Baker can't really run a team that well, but maybe DJ Moore. I don't know. I mean, I think DJ Moore might have a pretty nice one. Yeah, I mean, think about this. Robbie Anderson has been acting like a little bitch to Baker. All right, he's like, oh, I don't have Baker as my quarterback. This, that, and the other. But I mean, but DJ Moore has stayed pretty quiet. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's been working. I'm pretty sure he's been a very good receiver the last couple of years. It's better than whatever Sam Darnold's done, better than whatever Cam Newton has done, because Cam Newton doesn't know how to throw the football anymore because he talks in the third person all the time. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a rant. But, I mean, I think this could be a nice season for DJ Moore. I don't know how the Panthers are going to be this year. I think they're going to win like 6 games. But that's someone that you could go around and maybe pick up as a flex option. For sure. DJ Moore again. I think he'll be a better flex option than I'd say number 1. He's not he's not like, on this number 1 list if you're talking a 10 to a 12 team league, but definitely look for him. I do want to ask about your sleepers though, because these 2 sleepers, I love it. We talked a little bit about one of those guys before the show. I think even earlier in the show too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first and foremost, this is like my secret, but I guess it's getting aired out to everybody. DeAndre Hopkins, he's slipping in drafts just because of the 7-game suspension or whatever he has. I think he still has. He's going to try to get a couple games off or whatnot, but he's slipping in drafts. I've been getting him 7th, 6th area, maybe even sometimes 8. If you can get him in that, have him ready for that second half of the season, because when it comes to nut cutting time, you want to have him as a second, or you already have 2 receivers. You're going to have DeAndre Hopkins as a 3rd receiver. So championship time, that is a beautiful have to, have at your arsenal. And then A-Rob, he's finished, top 5 receiver, I think 2, maybe 3 times. Best quarterback he's ever had. He's an absolute stud. Terrible situation in Chicago last year. He was going into contract year. He got hurt. I think he didn't want to, he wasn't kind of buying in because what was there to buy into? So now he's in Los Angeles. Great situation here. I think he could really move back up into the ranks of what he was doing about 2-3 years ago.
For sure.
I think A-Rob also. He's going with his coach is the best offensive mind in the NFL, arguably. So that'll also set him up for better concepts to even get open. Yeah. Because a lot of the time last year, it was jump balls, and that's not – I don't think he specializes in jump balls. But I think he's more of he's got great hands, but I think it's more of intermediate digs. I think he's really good in the intermediate passing game. I think he definitely is good downfield too. Don't get me wrong. But I think with Chicago, they just kept having him run like these jump go ball type routes where he just sometimes wouldn't come down with it. And people are saying he's not good or any of that type of thing. Which it's not that. It's Chicago. Chicago is a complete joke. Like I don't
every year.
They're just a joke. Like the way that the whole organization is ran is terrible. And he's got to be lucky. He's lucky he's out of that situation with the Rams because I agree I think he'll have a huge year. I think especially with Cooper Kupp being the number one guy, he's going against the number 2 corner or whatever you want to call it since Cooper Kupp sometimes plays in the slot.
Yeah.
So I agree. I really like that Allen Robinson point right there. He's a guy that gets slept on for sure coming into the year.
Yeah, and you got to think about it too. It's, going into the number 1 fantasy receiver, you might have some worries about that, but Cooper Kupp had Odell. He had Robert Woods. He can be a number 2 receiver can live in the LA Rams offense.
Definitely. Especially with how much he'll throw the ball and how many touchdowns. I think Matt Stafford will throw a ton of touchdowns this year. Right. And I think a lot of those will be to Allen. A good chunk will be to Allen Robinson, and obviously a chunk will be to Cooper Kupp. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I definitely agree with that. I mean, like said, like Brady said, Allen Robinson running a bunch of dig routes across the middle, deep outs, utilizing his skill set in different ways, and teams are going to be fearful of going man to man against the Rams. So obviously, when it comes to zone schemes, they're going to do whatever the heck they can to try to take Cooper Kupp out of the game plan. He's going to do his thing. All right, he's the best fantasy receiver right now. He's going to do his thing, but Allen Robinson will be able to slide through some zones, get some 15-yard catches, have nice little 2-point plays here and rack them up throughout the game. So that's definitely one that could slip through the cracks, but someone you need to pick up as a sleeper, though. We can't give out our fantasy our strategy, but hey. Yeah. But I mean, we're just, giving it out to the people right here. Mr. Jayden Davis doing that. But what we'll do is we'll go over to the top 10 tight ends, the power fours of the NFL. What do you got?
Yeah, so this is, I would say in the top 2 are fairly easy. Number 1, Travis Kelce. Obviously Mark Andrews finished number 1 last year, but a lot heavier situation here for Travis Kelce now with Tyreek Hill out. Easily most trusted, receiver of Patrick Mahomes. So I think he shoots back up in that one position there. He's getting a little older, could be possibly his last one, but I see Travis Kelce right into the wheels fall off. Has another great season this year, gets back to the number 1 spot. Mark Andrews, though, absolutely blew up. And the drop-off from right here is insane. I was looking at the stats. I think it's literally a 100-point drop-off. I think Mark Andrews had 300 fantasy points last year, and Kelce had like 270, maybe somewhere around there, and then it was a 100-point drop off. So those two above and beyond from a tight end position. But then, from kind of, I guess, situational point, I got Kittle at 3. He's just a stud. Comes from tight end U. But you have the risk there with Trey Lance. As we spoke already in the show. Not really sure what's going to happen with that. And he does have a little injury bug every now and again each year. So, kind of have to take your chance on that. Number 4, Darren Waller. I mean, the whole offense is pretty much opened up for him. He was the number 1 there for a while. But, Hunter Renfrow came in last year, huge. And now Davonte Adams. I think the ball just gets spread around to everybody. Everybody has a good year in that offense. Number 5, Kyle Pitts. Even as a rookie, he finished number 6, and he was really, doing that entire offense by himself. Cordell Patterson, no, I don't think anybody saw that coming. But besides that, Who's the receivers who's suspended now?
Oh, Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, he's not there this year. They do have Drake London, so that could be, I don't have it listed, but sleeper. If you're in Dynasty, take Calvin late, hold him till next year if you can. But Kyle Pitts, I have him at 5. Absolute stud, going to be number 1 tight end 1 year. Easily coming up here soon, and probably going to be number 1 for a while. Yeah,
I mean, I agree for sure.
Absolute stud. But right now I got him at 5, just because of situational purposes. Number 6, Dalton Schultz. Great year last year, finished 3, and I think easily has potential to get back to that 3 position. With Kittle getting injured, possibly. But like I said, no Gallup, no Amari Cooper. Self-explanatory. He's going to get a lot of the passes, him and CD. After that, 7, Dawson Knox. Obviously, same exact thing. It's pretty crazy. I actually put it back to back with the Stefan and CD. Same situation as them. They have receivers leave out of town. Someone's going to have to get passes. I think Stefan Diggs and Dawson Knox get the reaps of the reward of that. TJ Hawkinson, I think he's a stud. Terrible, quarterback play with Jared Goff, but he is still a stud. So got him at 8. Zach Ertz, he was kind of a sleeper last year. He's in Arizona now. Great offensive scheme. He finished 5 last year. If Kyler Murray can do his thing this year, I think he has another good season with a huge receiving core around him. That's going to take a lot of pressure off him. And then lastly, Dallas Goedert, same kind of thing. Just great offense. If Jalen Hurts takes that next step, I think, easy top 10 for Dallas Goedert.
Okay, Matt, I see you thinking down there. What do you think about?
I think it was pretty good, actually. I don't know if I would change much. I think I'd probably put Darren Waller at 3 and Kittle at 4 just because of his injury problems.
Yeah.
And we don't know, Trey Lance, how good is he really going to be throwing the ball wise? But the top 3 are really good. Did you say Zach Ertz on there?
I have Zach Ertz at 9.
9, that's right. Okay, I didn't hear 9. But yeah, so Zach Ertz, I for some reason I thought you didn't say him. I was going to say that would be one guy I would throw in, but you did. I think it's a good list. I really do. I think the top 3 were, like I said, 3 and 4 was the only thing I would flip at all. I think that was good.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I like the list for sure. This is probably one of the positions I'm not as good with because it's so hard to predict with tight end. There's so much movement at tight end, especially from year to year. But the one thing I think it has a possibility of happening is Kyle Pitts just having a ridiculous year because he does that. Back. But the problem is, we saw last year, I think he had 1 touchdown maybe all year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so, and I don't know if that gets any better with Mariota at QB. It's gonna be tough. You have to throw a really accurate ball in the end zone for it to be a touchdown because the defense condenses so much. You need a good quarterback to score touchdowns, which is where a lot of your points comes from in fantasy. That's the only problem. I could see him being so dynamic if they had a quarterback. And being maybe even top 3. Maybe he's that 3rd guy, maybe. But who knows with the quarterback situation. So I like the spot at I think it was 6. I think that's a good spot for him just because you don't know. And then I wanted to ask about Pat Freiermuth. He's my guy over at Pittsburgh. I just want to know, what do you think about him coming in?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Like you were saying, tight end position is just so hard to, kind of pick and pop. I do see him a lot higher. He is in a lot of the top 10, ADP rankings. I just, stuck with what I knew a little bit. I could easily switch him with Dallas Goedert, but I think that top 9, I couldn't switch him with probably anybody besides Goddard, honestly.
Yeah.
But still a really good season, and obviously someone's going to get the ball in Pittsburgh. So,
yeah.
Yep. So that top 10 list, I like it. Obviously, like Kelsey, he's a receiver playing tight end. He's so smooth, route running, being able to catch the ball. He's just ridiculous. I think he led the league in receiving one of these years, or was very close up there. It was insane.
I think the year before last, I think.
I think it was 19, or 19 or 20, one or the other. But it was
funny because I know it was really recent, but Cooper Kupp definitely did last year. So.
Well, we know, that was without a doubt. That was his year last year and everything. Mark Andrews really consistent last year. Obviously Lamar Jackson's his favorite target, and then even toward late in the season, Mark Andrews still had a very good campaign with Tyler Huntley, and then the Josh Johnson game week 16. So Mark Andrews was really consistent, good at scoring touchdowns and all, getting the ball in the end zone. You got Kittle. Kittle had a really nice year last year. The Trey Lance thing obviously is going to be interesting. I do like him at 3 though. Waller, Pitts, Schultz, Knox. I mean, really, I like all the really 1 through 9, like said, and you could have interchangeable at 10. Dallas Goedert, I think, will have a good year though. I like him there. You're a Browns fan, right, Jayden?
Correct. Yep.
Njoku. I mean, I think he might have a decent year. I think he'll be okay. I mean, they might have overpaid him quite a bit. I think they overpaid him. But I mean, with Austin Hooper gone, who knows what else is going to happen there? But I think he could slip through the cracks and be almost a touchdown machine this year. I could see him doing that for sure. So I think Njoku actually. I don't know if he'll be top 10, but I mean, like I said, we don't know about tight ends. We don't know. Robert Tonyan, for God's sake, was like almost a top 5 tight end in 2 years ago. He had 10 touchdowns.
He was a beast.
It was a beast in 2020. So there's not really, you can't really tell if all that stuff, but give us a guy you would avoid and also a sleeper, because I really like both of these.
Yep. So with the void, I think it's kind of an easy way out, but at the same time, he was a very high draft pick last year. Noah Fant. I had him. Actually, Pete Carroll is actually saying he had the best, camp on the entire team. So could be hyping him up a little bit. I think he's a great talent. Can run really well as a tight end, catch. But this year, it's not his year, from where he was getting drafted last year. And then sleeper, Mike Gesicki, absolute great talent. Coming out of, I believe, Penn State, everybody had high hopes on him. He just hasn't made it yet, but I believe he had a pretty good year last year. He's just right on the cusp of that top 10. So great offense, a lot of receivers with Waddle. Hill could take a lot of flack off of him. Could see him, a lot of goal line touchdowns, things like that. So I could see him as being a sleeper.
Yep. Definitely agree with that. And, as we mentioned, the Dolphins, with who knows what's going to happen when it comes to Tyreek Hill's numbers or what they're going to do schematically on offense. I mean, I think we all still think Tyreek Hill's going to have a good year. He's one of the best receivers in the National Football League. He just might look a bit different. Yeah. And Mike Gesicki's probably one of the reasons why. I mean, he's a big target in the end zone, big target in general. Tua's thrown the ball to him the last 2 years, so they're obviously really familiar with each other. Could definitely see Mike Gesicki doing his thing, this entire season. But I will say we're kind of coming down to the end of the show. I think I kind of pushed this back a little bit. I'm not going to say give me your top 5 because I don't want to be like a draft strategy bust or anything like that. Yeah. But just the best players in the draft this year. Like who are those dudes that are like, if they're there, you gotta draft them?
Yeah. Is it just open to anybody here?
Anybody's got it. Who is your favorite fantasy football player? I should kind of give it a little draft tactics, but just give me a guy you would really like to have on your your team this year.
I like Jamar Chase. I want Jamar Chase on my team. I'm just saying,
let him know, baby. Let him know.
I do. I just want Jamar Chase on my team. He's my favorite player. I had him last year. Mm-hmm. He's just a bad son of a bitch. I want him on my team.
For real though.
If I can somehow match him up with him and Joe Burrow, I'll be happy as fuck. Like, give me Jamar Chase.
Insane stack.
Bad son of a bitch. There's mine, Jamar Chase. That's who I want.
Go. Mm-hmm.
I'm going a little less like obvious than that. Like,
fuck you, Brady.
No, I'm not saying that. You know what I mean. I mean, like, I'm going with the guy that like can get maybe a later round.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there you go.
And
say it a little nicer this time. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just had to get you going. I knew it would, but I'm going like I said earlier, I think Michael Thomas is not going to be healthy to start the season, so I'm going Chris Olave at receiver. I'd like to because I think, again, like I said earlier, based on what I said earlier, I really have to pick him here because I think he's going to break out this season. I think he's going to be that rookie, and not a Garrett Wilson or a Drake London. I still think those two are going to have big years, but I think Chris Olave is going to be that top rookie receiver this year. And I think he is a guy that I'd really love to have. I think he could win a league for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Good pick.
Yep. And I will say this for myself.
Jamar Chase. I would love to have Jamar Chase.
I'd love to have Jamar Chase too. Hell, I'm wearing a Chris Collinsworth jersey, and now here's a guy, blah 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 type. But hey, Hunter Renfrow, I'd really love to have him as a 2. Like, I mean, just thinking about if you get a big time receiver and have him as a 2, I'd love to have him as a 2 or even a flex, depending on the Davonte Adams. How big of an impact they'll have this year, because they'll have a big impact overall. But I mean, there's, like I said, there's so much talent and all that. Jayden, if you want to give somebody or not give away any draft strategies, who would you just want on your team?
Yep. So if the entire NFL season started about a week ago and we had a draft 2 weeks ago, 100,000% would have been Travis Etienne. I mean, college quarterback. He's playing in a way better system with Urban Meyer out of there now. I think he was going to have a season that would have put him in the first round this coming year. But news just came out that James Robinson is actually not on the PUP list. So somehow has came back quick. Yeah. So kind of feeling a little worried about Etienne, but I have my easy backup plan here. DeAndre Hopkins, no question about it. Easily healthy, playing a full season, top 10 receiver. With him having that 7-game suspension, if you can weather that storm, still make it into the playoffs, I think he's going to win a lot of people, a lot of leagues.
Man, I mean, that whole situation down in Jacksonville, that'll be interesting to monitor, especially with Christian Kirk being $84 million worth down there. So they're obviously going to try to get him the ball and not waste that money, of course. But we're kind of running out of time right now. But I do want to, one last thing. This is a very hot topic, especially coming out of Dallas. Tony Pollard. Anybody have an opinion on Tony Pollard going forward? What do you guys think of him? Touches wise, points wise. Talking about Zeke. Zeke. People are saying Zeke is washed or he's getting older, even though he's not even 30 yet. We're not, people are having this crazy narrative and all. But what do you guys think of Tony Pollard? I just had to say that for fantasy sake.
Yeah. So it's actually pretty interesting. Tony Pollard's only a year younger than Zeke.
Yeah.
On top of that, Zeke has finished top 8, top 7 for the last 3-4 years. So I just, even with an injury, I think it was his MCL, he had a partial tear or something last year. He still finished top 7. So I don't know where people are getting down. I immediately went out and got Zeke this offseason for one of my dynasty leagues, just for really this coming season. But I'm going to try to go out and handcuff Tony Pollard for sure. But I just don't see why everybody's so low on Zeke.
Yeah, I agree. I don't understand this narrative that Tony Pollard's better than Zeke. I don't agree at all. I think Zeke gets so much disrespect. I don't think it's really safe to draft Tony Pollard just because of the fact that Zeke is still there and Zeke is still their RB1.
Yeah, it's definitely not safe to draft Pollard. They're paying Zeke a ton of money, and Jerry Jones isn't going to pay somebody and not play him. So that's number one. You got to don't draft Pollard. I think the whole Zeke deal is he came out so strong as a rookie, led the league in rushing, whatever. And it's just people are always holding him to that standard now. It's just he's just a average to above average back now. I mean, top 7 or 8. I mean, shit, that's still a solid back. It's just he's not the back he was. I mean, but that happens. Like we said, running backs after 3 or 4 or 5 years, I mean, they go downhill a little bit.
They take so much hits that you just can't expect them.
I'm not extremely excited about having Zeke on my team either, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind it either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
he used to be the guy, him and Le'Veon
like
Bell.
I would not draft Pollard over him because Jerry Jones is not. He's not going to going to give somebody else more carries when he's paying this dude more money. That's just the way he is. So I would be very mindful of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, when we talk about all of, the Tony Pollard Zeke thing, as the great Al Michaels once said on an NBC broadcast, the D in Dallas might as well stand for drama. So, I mean, that's one thing with Dallas. You're always going to get drama, and it might be blown out of proportion. But, man, this was a fun episode. I love the fantasy breakdowns, and we're definitely going to have a ton of fantasy breakdowns coming for you, throughout the season and everything. And, heck, might make it a segment, honestly. I'd love that.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
Fantasy Weekly, baby. Fantasy Weekly.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
The weekly rundown.
I love it.
Yes, sir. But that's great fantasy football talk. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Just watch our other videos. Watch this one for sure. Get some good insights on fantasy football this coming season. Draft season, it is in the air. Football is coming back. We cannot wait to see it. We can smell it coming. But hey, I'm Chase Johnson. That's Jayden, Brady, Matt. We'll see you guys on Thursday.
See you.